Apple iPhone 13, we've got news that we'll be getting the upgrade that we all wanted to see, more news on 120Hz displays, as well as camera upgrades and millimeter wave. Now before we get started, please like the video if you're an Apple fan, and let me know in the comments what country you're actually watching today's video from. But the first story of the day is more information on 120Hz displays for the Apple iPhone 13. As I keep telling you guys, it looks like it's definitely happening this time round, just not for all of the models. Now all models will be using OLED displays, but it's only the iPhone 13 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro Max that's going to have 120Hz LTPO. The Elec issued a new report that says both premium iPhone 13 models are going to have displays exclusively produced by Samsung that will be 120Hz LTPO. They also report that in 2022, the iPhone 14 could actually have LTPO displays for all four of the models, but it's just way too early to be speculating about this. Now for those concerned with 5G, we have new news that the iPhone 13 is going to be bringing millimeter wave to more models and more countries. As we know, with last year's release, it was only the USA that got millimeter wave iPhones, but apparently large orders of millimeter wave antennas have been placed by Apple, and this is for next year's release of the iPhone 13. This news tells us that they're planning on bringing it to more countries and more models, and we should expect to see it in places like the UK. We can only hope though that this time round they worry less about marketing the 5G on the iPhone 13 and concentrate on new features that we want to see. We also have a new report from Ming-Chi Kuo, who's a very reliable iPhone analyst, and while we're hearing many rumors of changes to camera lenses, Kuo somewhat disagrees. Ming-Chi Kuo has advised that there's only going to be minor upgrades to the lenses until the iPhone 15, and as other reports have stated, Kuo also advises of a new supplier, Sunny Optical. They're joining Apple's supply chain, and it's thought that this could be for the periscope lens we've been told about in the iPhone 13. Next up, we've got news that while the iPhone 13 is going to be of a similar size to the predecessors, we're going to see a slight increase in thickness and an upgrade that we've all been waiting for. Makotaka has advised that all four models are going to be the same height and width, but the thickness will apparently increase by 0.26mm. The rear camera unit is also expected to increase thickness by 0.9mm, and this will be on all iPhone 13 models, but Apple are reportedly planning on covering the whole of the camera unit in sapphire glass, which is of course stronger and more scratch resistant, and the lenses themselves apparently protrude less than they currently do. When it comes to the front, Makotaka also report that the iPhone 13's notch is going to be smaller, and they're not the first source to say this. They state that the true depth camera will be getting narrower because the receiver that's currently at the top of the display is going to be moved to the edge of the case. So the height of the notch is likely to remain the same, but as we've been seeing in so many renders, the notch should become much thinner. While we're still at very early stages, we can be pretty sure that the aim for the Apple iPhone 13 is going to be to bring 120Hz displays on the premium models, more millimeter wave 5G, and of course improvements to the notch and cameras. Realistically, these changes along with the new A15 are going to be more than enough to make people want them later on in the year. Now of course, we've already had plenty of detail for the whole of the iPhone 13 series, so we're going to run through all of the specs now. For my regular viewers, you guys have already seen this, so just jump to the next video, but if you are new here, then make sure you hit subscribe and we'll get right into it. So to start with, we've got the entry-level model, the Apple iPhone 13 mini. It's expected to be a 5.4-inch iPhone with an OLED Super Retina display. It's expected to have a resolution of 2340 by 1080, and this is going to give us 465 pixels per inch. It's very unlikely for high refresh rates on the lower models, so expect a 60Hz display, but we should be seeing this shorter notch. With Apple continuing to prove that huge amounts of RAM are just not required, it should be equipped with 4 gigs of RAM and a choice of 64, 128 or 256 storage. We're expecting another aluminium frame to reduce the cost, although again the body should be looking similar to that of the Pros, and the iPhone 13 mini is going to come with dual cameras on the rear consisting of a 12 megapixel wide angle and a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and it will of course ship with iOS 15. For those that want the 4 gigs of RAM with 64 gigs of storage, it's likely going to launch at a price of around $700. For 128 gig, it should be around $750, and for the 256 gig, it should be around $850. Next up, we've got the iPhone 13. The iPhone 13 is going to have a 6.1-inch OLED display with a resolution of 2532 by 1170, and this gives us 460 pixels per inch. Again, we only expect this model to be having a 60Hz display and no LTPO technology, but again, it may have a smaller notch. We expect 4 gigs of RAM along with a choice of 64, 128 or 256 storage, and the phone should have an aluminium frame. We're expecting a 12 megapixel wide angle and a 12 megapixel ultra wide, giving us another dual camera setup, and the phone is going to ship with iOS 15. For the 64 gig model, we're expecting around $800. If you want 128 gigs, it should be around $850. For the 256 gig version, it should be around $950. Next up, we've got the iPhone 13 Pro, and here's where things are going to change a little bit, although we are expecting a similar looking device. The iPhone 13 Pro is expected to come with a 6.1-inch OLED display with a resolution of 1170 by 2532, and this gives us 460 pixels per inch. Not only is it going to be brighter, but it's also going to be using LTPO technology and provide us with a 120Hz variable refresh rate at a full resolution. We're not expecting any increase of RAM, as the A15 is going to be more than capable, so expect 6 gigs of RAM with a choice of 128, 256, 512 and maybe even a huge 1TB of storage. Because this is the more premium model, we also expect another still frame, and on the iPhone 13 Pro we should be getting a quad camera setup. This is going to be a 12 megapixel wide angle, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 12 megapixel telephoto and a LiDAR sensor. The phone will of course ship with iOS 15, and when it comes to pricing, we do expect some small price increases with this new display technology, so we're estimating that 128 gigs may be around $1,050. For 256 it could be around $1,150, for 512 it could be $1,350, and if the 1TB happens, then we could expect a whopping $1,550. Now finally, we've got the most premium model, the iPhone 13 Pro Max. The iPhone 13 Pro Max is expected to come with a 6.7-inch OLED display with a resolution of 1128 by 2778, giving us 458 pixels per inch. Again, it's going to be brighter, it's also going to be using the LTPO technology and provide us with that 120Hz variable refresh rate display. We can expect 6 gigs of RAM with a choice of 128, 256, 512, and again, if the leaks are true, then 1TB of storage. Again, we're expecting another still frame on the iPhone 13 Pro Max and another quad camera setup. Again, this will be a 12 megapixel wide angle, 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 12 megapixel telephoto and the LiDAR sensor. Now the phone is of course going to ship with iOS 15, and when it comes to pricing, again we expect this increase, so we're estimating for 128 gig it's $1,150, for 256 gig it could be $1,250, for 512 it could be $1,450, and if this 1TB storage happens, then we could see around $1,650, which is an incredibly huge price tag. So of course, with so many leaks floating around, things won't be clear until we get closer to launch and prototypes are made and hopefully leaked. As always though, if anything surfaces, I'm going to be sharing it with you guys straight away, but I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments. Who out there is excited for the Apple iPhone 13 and which feature is most important to you? But thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, smash a thumbs up. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down twice, and I'll see you guys in the next